Alright guys, so basically everything that you see in front of you is all that you need to make a batch of beer. First of all, we'll start off with our brewing bucket here with our siphoning hose. Key thing about the siphoning hose is you have to make sure, if you can make sure it comes with a racking cane as this one does, as well as a siphon lock. This will save many hours of crying over spilled beer and wasted beer and spillage, which is never a good thing, particularly if you spend the time and make it your own, make it yourself. So you can see the siphon lock here. Simple purchase. Basically, what it does is cuts off the flow of the beverage into the bottle as you're going. Secondly, with your racking cane, the reason why they call it a racking cane has the racking tip associated to stop it from going into the trub or the yeast and whatnot that's in the bottom of the bucket before you bottle. Another nice, great feature about the bottling buckets is if you can find one with a scale on it, or fluid measurements on it, that will tell you basically how much fluid you're going to be adding. If you can't find one, don't worry about it. You may pay a little bit extra for these ones. They're normally about $20, $30, not too bad individually. If you can't find one, simple word of advice, basically take 2 liters of water at a time and fill it up. Count up to the 23 liter mark, and then go up to 25, and mark that off on the bucket in a permanent marker. Just says when you're adding, topping up with cooler water, with your wort to bring it up to room temperature, you know what you're adding and not overfilling or underfilling to adjust your specific gravities. The other thing I can recommend purchasing at your home brew shops or even the pet store are these little stick-on thermometers. Really handy for showing your wort temperature and before you pitch your yeast as well as during fermentation. Really want to keep things around 20 degrees, but it really depends on the style of beer. I like to ferment mine a little bit cooler, range between 19, 18 and as low as 17 depending on the type of beer I'm making. But this is a really quick visual guide for you to determine sort of what's going on in the fermenter and how things are progressing in that regard. Secondly, when I look down here, we have our glass carboy. I use these sometimes, but not all the time. On top of that glass carboy is a blow-off valve or blow-off tube. I'll get into that later on. Red thing is our carboy handle. Cannot state enough how valuable that is for lugging these glass things around. 5 gallons of beer, they get a little bit heavy. Glass carboy, I usually don't do my primary fermentation there. I do my secondary, or when I rack from my primary bucket into my secondary, for ease of clarifying the beer and making things a little bit cleaner, just sort of allowing things to clear up a little bit. Makes a nice little. These are a little easier to handle with the one handle as well, but makes things a little bit better. Usually clarifies the beer a little bit, but it really is up to you. Next thing on the table, you see a whole pile of things. Okay, we'll go with our mixing spoon. Really handy if you're adding some sugars and dextrose or dry malt extract to your extract kits. Easy to sanitize, easy to clean. Either go with plastic or go with metal or stainless steel. I'm actually going to be going with stainless steel one shortly because of this is actually my second spoon that I have. I've broken it again. So yeah, there is stainless steel is definitely the best option for me. Then we have our lovely handy dandy bottle washer. This is really handy for sanitizing your bottles, which you see in the background there, as well as sanitizing carboys, and in my case doing kegs, which you see there, which we will get into in the distant future. Really handy. Screws onto the bottle. Screws onto the tap. Pressure out the water. Keeps the valve in place. You push the bottle down and wash out the bottle from the inside. Great investment. Here's what I also use when I do bottle. This injects our sanitizer to the inside of the bottle. After you've had the bottle soaked on the outside, I like to give them a couple extra squirts with this. And that's simply done by putting the bottle on top of the neck and then pushing down, and that injects the sanitizing solution into the bottle itself. Now my wife's probably going to hate me, but these are the 2 things that I've stolen from her kitchen that are very handy around here nonetheless. Stainless steel turkey baster. She's been looking for it since last Thanksgiving. Haven't been able to find it since. I don't know where it went. I use that for doing samples, pulling off samples, as well as, believe it or not, topping up the fluid in the top of the fermentation lock, which I'll show you shortly. Nice thing about the turkey baster, with it being stainless steel, it's easy to wash, easy to clean, and readily available at any grocery store, large department stores type of thing. The measuring cup, self-explanatory. whether you're going to be measuring your sugar or measuring other items to your beer. You may not necessarily need to get one right away, but if you're going to be doing priming and bottle aging, probably not a bad idea to get. The other thing I have and highly recommend is a spray bottle of some sort. This was an old spray bottle of some other stuff that we had around the house, and in here is currently in my sanitizer, which is really, really handy for doing quick sprays and doing some last minute sanitizing on other parts that may not necessarily be allowed to soak within the sanitizer itself. Which brings us to our sanitizer, which I have here in this bucket. Now the nice thing, I sometimes use metasodium bisulfate, and this pink stuff, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I use that as well from time to time. I store it in a bucket, because it is reusable. Don't let people tell you that you use it once and throw it away. Really depends on how soiled your bottles are, but basically you want to give them a good clean with a brush, or give them a really good soaking, wash them out with a brush, and I use OxyClean to clean my products prior to sanitizing them. And that brings us to our bottles. Now I currently use, this is one of my favorites. This is courtesy of a local brewery down the street. It's a 750 ml flip top bottle. The nice thing about this is that there's no caps. And it's like a grow style bottle. You have the flip top, and it holds 750 mils, and very, very handy. Or you can also go with plastic. I have two different sizes. I have a 1 liter bottle, and then I also, a 1 liter bottle, and then I also have a ½ liter bottle size. Both the PET plastics with the reusable bottle cap, plastic caps as well. Simply just sanitizing all of that. Fairly straightforward operation. And one day I'm going to do a whole separate show on sanitizing. But for the time being, I want to keep this really general, really, fairly off the cuff in terms of other items you would need for, basic items you need to get started on home brewing. The other items you would need, we'll just stop by there. Okay, so yeah, currently I've got Cascade Red on the big white bucket, Lemon Drop for my ginger beer, and then Tracy Bow for my wife's strong cider. I'm currently serving a Stella Artois at 4.3%. Really nice session ale, which is nice. Other thing I can really recommend you guys getting is some brushes. I use this small brush here for cleaning out my beer lines in my kegerator, as well as siphon lines as well. Then I have a carboy brush here, which is really handy for getting some of the stubborn stuff out. And then a smaller brush, getting into other tighter fitting areas. In time, we'll get into other items that I currently have. There's another fermentation bucket back there, a couple pots, lid, colander, another carboy in the back corner. As you can see, under the stairs brewing. It's all done under the stairs in the basement. And just one final thing that we need to look at and discuss are these lovely gems on top of our fermenting vessels. This is our Cascade Red. Was put in just over 2 weeks ago. Fermenting away nicely still. Specific gravity is 1.046. Fermentation lock, basically, as you can see, allows the carbon dioxide to escape from the top. Doesn't allow anything to go back in. And every once in a while, these will bubble away, make a lovely little noise. It just makes me filled with joy. So this is Tracy's cider, and you'll see this one will bubble shortly. As you can see, there we go there. So it's fermenting nicely away. And then this one next to it is the Lemon Drop, or the ginger beer. I chose to do these in a 1 gallon as a test batch to see if it works out. I mean, if it doesn't work out, I'm not really out of pocket anything. But if it does work out, then we can start looking at doing it in the 5 gallon bucket as such. Finally, and another thing that we're all sort of wondering about is how do you figure out how much alcohol is in your beer? This is one of our most valuable tools. Is hydrometer and a test cylinder. Hydrometer really basically just measures the density of the liquid that you submerge it into. So you're going to, when you first create your batch of beer, before you add your yeast, you'll be going with taking a specific gravity reading, and that'll give you your initial reading of how much sugar is in your beer, and will give you a potential idea of how much alcohol you're going to have after your beer is fermented. Now, fermentation is dependent on temperature, temperature that you pitch your yeast at, temperature that your beer is fermenting at, or what other items you have fermented. It doesn't necessarily have to be beer, and how long you let it go for. Really quick ways to stop fermentation. Cold chill your beer, cold crash your beer if you want to get into it really, really quick. I don't recommend doing that. I prefer to let things go on their own. So that being said, that's a really brief introduction to what you need to get going on brewing beer. Now, a lot of local homebrew stores have homebrew starting kits, very reasonably priced. You can usually pick one of those up, as well as a kit, an extract kit, with your sugar for around the $100 mark. So it really doesn't take very much to get going into things. And the nice thing is that each kit is going to make about two and a half cases in a 6-pack roughly. So on average, you're looking at $30 for a kit for 2.5 cases of beer. Not a bad thing to do with. Anyways, I'm going to leave you there for now. I'll touch base with you in a couple seconds. I'll just wrap things up. Oh, and I forgot one final thing, and by far the most important thing is you must always have a homebrew when you are making homebrew. That's the rule, the cardinal rule. Don't break it. Don't abolish it. Just abide by it. Cheers. Sláinte, Prost, and all the good stuff. So from Under the Stairs Brewing Company, this is Sam, saying we'll see you in a week or so. Take care.